Hello, we're going to discuss today finding the derivative of the function using the chain rule. We have our first example, y equals the square of 5x plus 7. So to do this, we have y prime equals, we're going to multiply the exponent in the outside the parentheses. So we have 2 times 5x plus 7 raised to 2 minus 1 times the derivative of the inner function. Our inner function is 5x plus 7, and the derivative of 5x plus 7 is 5. Then simplify. Our final answer is, we can multiply 2 times 5, we have 10 times, we have 5x plus 7. Then we have 2 minus 1 is 1, and we don't need to write 1 here. We can express our answer as factored form, or we can simply multiply this using the distributive property of multiplication. So 10 times 5x is 50x, 10 times 7 is 70. Therefore, the derivative of the square of 5x plus 7 is 50x plus 70. Our second example, we have y equals the cube of 6x minus 4. We have y prime equals, we will multiply the exponent outside the parentheses, so we have 3 times 6x minus 4. Then we will subtract 1 in the exponent. We have 3 minus 1. Then we will get the derivative of the inner function. So the derivative of 6x minus 4 is 6. We can multiply 3 times 6. We have 18 times 6x minus 4 quantity. We have 3 minus 1 is 2. That is our final answer. Our third example is y equals the square of 5x squared minus 4x plus 2. So we have y prime. We will multiply 2 outside the parentheses. We have 2 times, we will just copy the inner function. We have 5x squared minus 4x plus 2 times the derivative of the inner function, which is 2 times 5 is 10x, minus the derivative of 4x is 4. So the derivative of 2 is 0, so we don't need to write 0. So our final answer is 2 times the quantity of 5x squared minus 4x plus 2 times the quantity of 10x minus 4. We can remain our answer as factored form. Next, number 4 example, we have y equals 3x squared minus 5 raised to 1/2. Our exponent here is 1/2. So still, to get the derivative of this, we will multiply 1/2 outside the parentheses, so we have 1/2 times, we will just copy the inner function. We have the 3x squared minus 5 times the derivative of the inner function, which is 6 times 3x, we have 6x. And by the way, I forgot, we have to subtract 1/2 minus 1. We have here negative 1/2. Why is it negative 1/2? We have 1/2 minus 1. We have to write 1 as 2 over 2. So we have 1 minus 1/2 minus 2 over 2. So we have 1 minus 2 is negative 1/2. So that's why our exponent here is negative 1/2. Then we can simplify this further. We can cancel 2, and 6 here becomes 3. Then multiply, we have 1 times 3x, we have 3x, then times 3x squared minus 5 raised to negative 1/2. So that is our final answer, the derivative of the quantity of 3x squared minus 5 raised to 1/2 is 3x times the quantity of 3x squared minus 5 raised to 1/2. Next, our example number 5. We have y equals the quantity of 5x to the 4th minus 7 raised to 2/3. So our exponent here is 2/3. So to get the derivative of this, we have to multiply the exponent outside the parentheses. So we have 2/3 times 5x to the 4th minus 7. We just copied the inner function, and we will subtract 1 from 2/3, so we have negative 1/3 times the derivative of our inner function, which is 20x, then subtract 1 from 4, we have 3. So the derivative of a constant is 0, so we don't need to write 0 anymore. So we cannot simplify 3 and 20, so that could be our final answer. So the derivative of y equals 5x to the 4th minus 7 quantity raised to 2 over 3 is 2/3 times the quantity of 5x to the 4th minus 7 raised to 1/3 times 20x cubed. Our next example is y equals the square root of 5x minus 2. So we're dealing with here a radical. So before we can get the derivative of this function, we have to rewrite this first into exponential function. So the equivalent of this function into exponential function is the exponent of this is 1/2. So we have y equals 5x minus 2 raised to 1/2. We can now proceed in getting the derivative of our function using the chain rule. So we have here 1/2 times the inner function, which is 5x minus 2 raised to 1/2 minus 1. We have negative 1/2 times the derivative of the inner function, which is 5x, just 5. We cannot simplify further because 5 is not divisible by 2, so that is already the final answer. Our next example is y equals, we have the cube root of 3x plus 5. So we have here the cube root. So the equivalent exponent of the cube root is 1/3. So we have to write it first into exponential function. We have 3x plus 5 raised to 1/3. Then get the derivative. We have 1/3 times, we have 3x plus 5. Then we will subtract 1 from the 1/3. We have negative 2/3. Then times the derivative of the inner function. We have derivative of 3x is 3. Then the derivative of 5 is 0, so we don't need to write 0 anymore. So we have, what here we have 3 and 3. We can simplify, we can cancel 3 and 3. So the quotient is 1. So 1 times 1 is 1. So we don't need to write 1. So the final answer is 3x plus 5 raised to negative 2/3. So that is our final answer.